the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I would like to greet all of you in the greeting words of peace of Assalamu alaikum, which simply means, well, not simply, but it's a prayer of peace be unto you. And today we're just doing a program um, on these adulterated foods. And so I wanted to do this program because we've been getting like a lot of recalls, not only a lot of recalls, but just what is going on with the food that we're purchasing in the grocery stores. Can it even be classified as food today? Or is it something that is grown in a lab, some type of genetically modified substance? And what does it mean to be processed? Now they have a term called ultra processed. So let's go ahead and get right on into this. And so first, I want to always love to begin, of course, with the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches that there is no way of prolonging the life of human beings or any other life unless it begins with restrictions of the foods which sustain life, the right kinds of food, and the proper time when we should be taken uh, when we should be taken into our body when it should be taken into our bodies, excuse me. So when you think about it, when you look at the prophets of God, many of the major prophets of God always came with a dietary law. Isn't that something? You know, so when you look at the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad wrote the book Message to the Black Man, A Fall of America, Our Savior Has Arrived, to name a few, but he wrote two books called How to Eat to Live. And today, many of the uh, scientists of nutrition are just bearing witness behind closed doors, or they're not coming out and saying it, but they're bearing witness to the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who said that we should eat one meal a day between the hours of 4 and 6 in a peaceful environment with food that is not genetically modified, not processed, but is organic, that is grown from the earth to our tables. And so today, that whole thing is, they call it intermittent fasting, for instance, just bearing witness once again to the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But the question is, what is food? What is the definition of food? Food is any substance consumed by organisms for nutritional support, primary, primarily derived from plants, animals, or fungi. It provides essential nutrients such as carbohydrates, proteins, fats, vitamins, and minerals necessary for energy, growth, and maintenance of life. Food can be raw or processed to some degree and is vital for sustaining health and facilitating bodily functions. Humans are omnivores, consuming a variety of food groups, including fruits, vegetables, grains, meats, to meet their dietary needs. Adulterated food refers to food products that have been altered in a way that diminishes their quality, safety, nutritional value. This alteration can occur through the addition of substances that are either harmful or not disclosed to the consumer. The legal definition of alteration varies by jurisdiction, but generally includes any food that contains harmful substances has been contaminated or had valuable components removed or replaced. And that is what we're getting right now on our grocery stores. And I just wanted to say that this is not by accident. When you look at the the food that we are purchasing at the stores, it's setting us up for illnesses. We're being set up for illnesses. And so when you look at the pharmaceutical industry, who has big sway, especially over the media. And so when you look at all the pharmaceutical commercials, a lot of that you don't even need if you eat properly. So to get you hooked into being dependent on prescription drugs, the food that we're being um, fed is food that brings about dis-ease in the body. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. So addition some of these harmful substances. This includes the introduction of poisonous or uh, poisonous substances that may render the food injurious to health. For example, food contained with pathogens like E. coli or Listeria are considered adulterated. And we're hearing major recalls uh, of food that are either contaminated with Listeria, uh, E. coli, or and I can't think of the other one. It'll probably come to mind here in a few. But needless to say, we're going to go ahead and get right on into this. It says this occurs when a valuable constituent is omitted or replaced with less valuable substance to increase profit margins. And example would be diluting milk with water. Another example would be honey. Honey is a highly adulterated food. So instead of you getting honey and it says honey on the packet, what you're actually getting is nothing more than some form of sugar and not honey at all. There's other substances, and we'll go into that. Particularly in seafood, this involves mislabeling a product by submitting one species for another without disclosure, which can mislead customers regarding the type of quality of the product. And it's amazing that the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, which many have labeled it, not that FDA does not stand for Food and Drug, but it stands for Fraud and Death Administration, because they are allowing a lot of things to be served to the American people that are banned in other countries. And we're going to get into that. It says undisclosed processing methods include practices such as excessive glazing, adding ice to seafood, or using additives that are not declared on the labels. Other things like unsanitary conditions where food can also be deemed adulterated if it has been prepared, packed, or held under unsanitary conditions, leading to contamination. And so when you think about food today, we have a global market, and much of our food is being shipped from other countries in containers. And so this sets up, if they're not contained properly, this sets up the danger of E. coli or Listeria or some other bacteria or even virus that can be introduced into the food and grow. And then next thing you know, there's a recall because people are cramping up or even dying. So let's look at unsanitary radiation. If food has been radiated but does not comply with FDA regulations regarding radiation processes, it is considered adulterated. So think about that. Radiated food that you're eating, and then you're taking on this, and now you're wondering why you have a cancer in your colon. And colorectal cancer is growing exponentially. You know, they used to talk about breast cancer or prostate cancer, but now they're talking about colorectal cancer. And why? Because of the foods that we're eating, that the foods that that the government is allowing to be served to the American people is killing us. So look at another thing, unsafe additives and drugs or new animal drugs are classified as adulterated under U.S. law. So let's look at some unsafe additives or drugs. So right now, there's a serious problem with antibiotics not being effective. Why are antibiotics not being effective? Because animals who were once allowed to roam free on the range and eat grass like cows, right, are now in factory farms. And this is so diabolical because this is really what has put the small farmers out of business because they have these factory farms where they can grow the meat, injecting the meat so that the animal will grow faster. But what they also inject the animal with, because they're packed in these tight spaces, is antibiotics. Because if there's a disease outbreak in the herd, it could wipe out the whole herd. So they're injecting these animals with these growth hormones and these antibiotics, right? And then these meats go to the market where you and I eat them, and they tell us that there's not enough uh, growth hormone or not enough antibiotics in there to harm you. However, what we're seeing in the American people, for instance, in young women, that they're starting their cycle earlier in life and they're growing breasts. And this is all due to these growth hormones that are put in the food. Now, as far going back to the antibiotics, so now you're taking on the meat that has these antibiotics in it, and next thing you know, when you catch some type of illness and you go to the doctor, now what they're talking about is that the antibiotics that they're trying to give you to fight that illness doesn't work. And why doesn't it work? Because the germs that the antibiotics are supposed to kill have become um, immune to that drug. So now we have what's called superbugs where people are dying for what they could be cured yesterday. Now they're not able to be cured today because of these superbugs. And that not only goes into some of the things that you see in the hospitals, but that also goes for instance, like STDs. Some strains of syphilis and gonorrhea are today incurable. So you need to definitely go ahead and look that up because it's getting to be very extreme. And this is all due to capitalism. This is all due to profit over people. This is the nature of capitalism. So let's look at some more filthy or decomposed substances. Any food items consisting in whole or part of filthy, putrid, or decomposed substances is also categorized as adulterated. The consumption of adulterated food can lead to various health issues ranging from mild gastrointestinal disturbances, the cramps, right? You run into the bathroom and uh, either you are constipated, and that's due to a large uh, a consumption of not drinking enough water and things like that, but also diarrhea. So diarrhea and nausea to severe conditions such as allergic allergic reaction and chronic diseases, including diabetes and cardiovascular problems. Some adulterants may even possess carcinogens properties, posing long term health risks. So, when we say carcinogenic properties, what we're talking about is cancer, right? And so, a lot of these highly processed foods, especially meat, if you are still eating pig or swine or pork or sausage or anything from the pig, if you're eating ham, anything like that, anything that's highly processed, then you're just setting yourself up for cancer because these are carcinogenic foods. They're cancer causing foods. And so, just like you have on the label when you smoke a cigarette, the same thing as it should be for these foods. Adulterated foods represent a significant public health concern due to its potential to cause harm through compromised safety and nutritional standards. Think about that. Compromised safety and nutritional standards. I mean, it's I don't even where do you even go with that because it's already compromised. Because once again, it's profit over people. And so let's go into this. While regulatory bodies like the FDA are supposed to enforce laws aimed at preventing food adulteration and ensuring consumer protection, here are a list of food substances that are banned in Europe but allowed in America. Based on research results provided, there are several food additives and ingredients that are allowed in the United States but are banned in Europe. I'm just giving you seven. Due to the potential health concerns, there, let's just get into them. So there's titanium dioxide. And so this is used in candies, chewing gum, sweets, cottage cheese, cake icing, soups, sauces, and other processed foods. Europe bans it, but uh, European food safety authorities conducted that genotoxicity concerns potential to damage DNA could not be excluded after consumption of titanium dioxide particles. It was been banned in Europe since 2022. Bromide vegetable oil or BVO. It's in citrus flavored drinks. And the concern is about its potential to accumulate in the body and affect the thyroid. The thyroid is very important in regulating body temperature and other type of hormonal regulations. But it's been banned in in Europe. the UK, and Japan, but allowed in America. Potassium bromate, that's found in bread and other baked goods to strengthen dough. What? Suspected carcinogen. It's been banned in Europe. It's been banned in China. China? Now, here we are always, the news media is always telling you about China and how China, its regulatory system is um, bad, right? But here, even they've done banned this substance, and it's banned in India, but allowed in America. A- a- azodicarbonate, azo, you'll have to look it up. Azodicarbonide, bread and other baked goods as a dough conditioner. Concerns about the production of potential carcinogen byproducts during baking. It's banned in the UK and European Union. The five phallus paraben. And this is a shame, brothers and sisters, that this is in your food, and I can barely pronounce what these substances are. See, the thing about it is, and it sounds funny, right? Because the thing about it is that it's in our food, and it's a chemical, and it's not natural to the food. That's why it's so difficult to pronounce. I mean, you're laughing at me and I'm laughing at me for not being able to pronounce it, but I shouldn't even have to pronounce what this is in our food because it shouldn't even be there. But listen to what this says. It's an antimicrobial preservative in food products. The concern is that it can potentially affect it has potential effects on fertility and endocrine system function. In order in other words, reproduction. Anything that would harm reproduction should be banned. Anything uh that affects reproduction should be banned. Bisphenol A should be banned. Phthalates should be banned. And of course, we know that the bisphenol that should be banned. And what is the one that's in the water now? Uh, PSA. Man, brothers and sisters, this is bad. So let's go ahead and look at some more. Recombinant bivin somatotropin, RBST. It's used in dairy cows to increase milk production. And the reason why it's banned is concerns in animal welfare and potential health effects. It's banned in Europe and in Canada. Certain food colorings like yellow dye number 5, yellow dye number 6, and red dye number 40. They're in various processed foods to give them color. And the concerns about potential effects on children's behavior and attention. But these type of substances are allowed to be put into children's foods when there's concerns about it affecting children's behavior and attention. So no wonder your children are on these psychotropic drugs. No wonder your children are ADHD as far as what they're concerned. But could it be that if you were to feed them properly, that they wouldn't have that issue at all, and you wouldn't have to give them any type of medicine? Think about that and consider it. The main reason for these bans in Europe include different regulatory approaches. The EU tends to take a more precautionary approach, banning substances if there's a possibility of harm, while the US FDA often requires definitive proof of harm before taking action. So I think what you have to remember uh, about all of the government agencies, all of the government agencies, all of the government agencies, is that many of them have close ties to the corporate world. So many of those who are in the government um, agencies go over into the corporate world, and vice versa, that many of those who are in the corporate world will go into the government agencies. And this relationship then allows uh, these regulations to be laxed so that these corporations can make a profit off of poisoning you. That's exactly what's going on. And if you're not being poisoned, then why are the American people so sick, so overweight, and what should really be concerning is the sperm count of the male in America has dropped significantly. What should really be concerning is that women, especially Black women, are dying in childbirth, a natural process. Let's go on. Concerns about long term health effects. Many of these additives have been linked to potential carcinogens, and they have been researched on animals and humans to show that these substances cause cancer in these animals. Accumulation in the body, some of the additives like titanium dioxide and BOV can accumulate in the body over time, raising concerns about long term exposure. Lack of necessity, that many of these additives are not even essential for food production, and there are safer alternatives. Although these safer alternatives may or may not cost more, they may or may not cost more. So the question is that if they don't cost more, why then are you using this instead of this natural substance? And once again, I want to just drop in your mind that could it be that, for instance, when you talk about cures, that Big Pharma can always come up with a pharmaceutical drug that is not natural. That's why it has side effects. That's why when you watch these commercials, that they at the end they have to give you the side effects, and they're literally telling you that this pill that will help your leg stop shaking may cause suicidal thoughts, may cause may may cause you to grow man breast, may cause you to be homicidal, may cause you to and it's ridiculous all the things that they say. And this is not to say that I'm condoning marijuana in any way, shape, or form, but I'm just asking the question, with all of these side effects that this drug is causing, how is this such an issue? Over here, it doesn't make any sense at all. So let's go on. It says it's important to note that while these substances are allowed in the US, some American companies have voluntarily removed. They have voluntarily removed. The government didn't say that, you should remove this. They have voluntarily removed it. Why? Because they're removed them from their products due to consumer concerns and to align with international standards. So they have voluntarily taken these substances out because the consumer, the masses of the people have said that we are not going to buy your product. And you know that the bottom line is that almighty dollar. So when they say we're not going to buy your product, then they say that, oh, my bad. We're gonna put this natural product in instead of this and you don't even know if that's what they're really doing. So for instance, a lot of drinks no longer have high fructose corn syrup, which was found to be highly addictive, and cause diabetes and obesity. High fructose corn syrup, if you look on most products, including bread, high fructose corn syrup is in bread. Now you tell me why. So let's look at some of these food recalls in the United States. It says as of 2024, the United States has seen thousands of food recalls annually. According to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, the USDA, and the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the, uh, the FDA, and the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the USDA, which is very discriminatory and racist towards Black farmers. I just want to say that off the grip. And let me just say this too, that the scripture says that God is not mocked. God is not mocked. Whatever you sow, you shall also reap. And so a lot of things that white America has put on the darker peoples of the earth is coming right back to you. So now the USDA would do all kind of dirty tactics that cause black farmers to lose their land, to lose their farm. But guess what? Now big money interests like Bill Gates and others are let me just show you a tactic that they do. So they will, and I'm trying to think of an example of how they undercut small farmers. Uh, I, I can't think of an example, but I'll just say that they mass produce a product, put it on the market for a inexpensive price where the small farmers cannot and not necessarily small farmers, we're just talking about family farms. They could be big farmers, but because they can't put their product on the market for the same uh, cut in costs that these factory farms can, they lose their farm. And so what comes around goes around. If the white man would have done, because it's too late now, this thing is over with. If he would have done then he would see justice coming to himself. But because he did not do justice, now he sees injustice coming to himself. And there's an old saying that you can't keep a man down in the mud without getting mud on yourself. And so, yeah, this whole thing is over because of so much corruption, so much racism and injustice. Now, the average white man is feeling the injustice coming from the rich white man. Pitiful. Let's go on. So there were approximately 1,000 food recalls reported in 2020 alone. The number can fluctuate yearly based on various factors such as outbreaks of foodborne illnesses, contamination events, and regu- regu- uh, regulatory actions. So the type of food recalls encompass a wide range of products, including but not limited to meat and poultry. We know there's a lot of meat and poultry recalls, often recalls due to contamination with pathogens like salmonella. That's the one I was trying to think of. Salmonella, E. coli, and listeria. Those are the three major ones, right? That you always hear about. Dairy products commonly recalled for issues related to bacterial contamination or undeclared allergens. And remember, when we talk about dairy products, we're talking about cows being raised unnaturally. Remember mad cow disease? Because they weren't feeding the cows uh, what they naturally eat. They were feeding them like corn and stuff like that, something that the cows don't naturally eat. And so you had mad cow disease, but you also have them being injected with these chemicals to cause them to grow faster, injected with these chemicals that cause them to not catch diseases. And then you and our children eat these foods. And the same chemicals that's still in the meat is transferred into our babies' bodies. Shameful, man. Fruits and vegetables frequently recalled due to pesticide residues or contamination with harmful bacteria. Processed foods, items like snacks, sauces, and frozen meals may be recalled due to foreign materials or mislabeling. Foreign materials or mislabeling. Think about that. Foreign materials. What type of foreign materials? Foreign materials, for instance, like sawdust, plastic. So when you look at, if you remember, not too long ago, there was an outroar over rice and how it was plastic. There was an outcall or uproar over the cheese. I forget what cheese that was, but it was something like wood flakes, Parmesan. That's it. Just look it up. Go back and you'll see what I'm saying. Seafood recalls for reasons such as contaminations with toxins or undeclared allergens. And so with seafood, you're running into a whole number of issues. You're not only running into the fact that the sea has been contaminated with plastics that contain bisphenol A and other hormone inhibiting chemicals. Bisphenol A, PFAS, that's the one I was looking for, PFAS, right? Mercury. Um, I mean, it's just ridiculous when it comes down to how toxic the world has become because of capitalism. And that's why it's toxic because the West would like to say, look at what we've done to the world. No, not look at what we've done to the world. Look at what the West has done to the world. Because capitalism come out of the West. And in truth, to just take capitalism and describe it fundamentally is that it's a rape system. Capitalism is a rape system. It's a system that takes but doesn't give. And then on top of taking and not giving, doesn't take responsibility for what it took. It just takes. And so capitalism eats its own. And when you look at young white children today, like the young white girl, I forget her name, who's talking about the climate. Capitalism, white, those who are up at the top, they don't care. They don't care about what they're doing as far as destroying the world. And what they would like to say in their news reports is that look at what we are doing. Hell no, we ain't doing nothing. This is your system of corruption, and it's corrupted the whole world. Brothers and sisters, they have not only polluted the oceans, they've not only polluted the air, they've not only polluted the land, they've not only polluted animals, but you can't even go out into space because they polluted the atmosphere around space with all of these satellites. Just go and look it up. So let's go ahead and look at some more things here. Um, for instance, in 2023, notable recalls include ground beef contaminated with E. coli, frozen fruit linked to hepatitis A, packaged salads due to listeria concerns, and the deaths associated with these food calls. While many food recalls are uh, precautionary and do not result in illness or death, some serious have been documented. According to the CDC, foodborne illness led to an estimated 3,000 deaths annually. In the US alone, 3,000 deaths annually. Now, I want you to think about your family member who brings home a hamburger and bites into that hamburger and doesn't wake up the next day. I want you to think about how devastating that is. And then I want you to think when they do these food recalls, how contrite are these corporations for the deaths that they have caused? You hear very little about that. Let's go on. In 2018, romaine lettuce outbreak caused an E. coli outbreak that resulted in multiple deaths and numerous hospitalizations. Once again, think about the cost that's involved to the families who have a injured family member. Think about the pain, the anguish, all because of improper raising and I mean across the board. I mean raising, growing across the board, selling, all of it is corrupt. It's all bad. And this is why it's so important that Black communities, especially, because the food, and you should get a book by Dr. Wesley Muhammad. I think it's something like Waging War by Zip Code, saying that certain foods are brought into certain grocery stores. You know what I'm saying? So Don't think that this type of stuff is far-fetched. If they can roll up viruses in blankets and give them to other human beings to die, then don't even try to say that that's far-fetched. If you can see what's going on in Palestine and the Western media is just reporting it like casually every day, where they even beat down their own students for protesting genocide, don't believe that that's far-fetched. Let's go into this. It says in 2020, a salmonella outbreak linked to onions led to several fatalities. The exact number of deaths directly attributed to specific recalls is challenging to ascertain. They challenging, right? Because they don't really want to tell you the number. That's why it's challenging, because it often involves complex, see these type of keywords, right? Complex investigations into outbreaks that may span multiple products and sources. Shameful, man. Causes for food recalls are pathogen contamination, and this includes bacteria such as Salmonella, E. coli, Listeria, monocyclo, monocytogenes, and viruses like norovirus. Chemical contaminations like pesticides and other harmful chemicals can lead to recalls if detected above safe levels. I'm going to read that again. Chemical contamination like pesticides or other harmful chemicals. Look, you all need to get How to Eat to Live. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad wrote about these chemicals that are used in growing our foods that he said that don't even need to be used. But these chemicals, and I know that Monsanto and there's another big uh, pharmaceutical that makes these type of pesticides that have leached into the food, and then when we eat them, we die of the same thing that the bugs die of. Not quickly, but it's slowly because it builds up in the system. So, undeclared allergens. Products may be recalled if they contain allergens that are not listed on the label, like peanuts uh, and tree nuts. Foreign materials. Physical contamination, such as what I mentioned earlier, plastic pieces or metal shards that can prompt a recall if found in food products. And then mislabeling. Incorrect labeling regarding ingredients or nutritional information can also lead to product recalls. And so that mislabeling, that's really bad because a lot of our food today, by law, is not even labeled to what you to let you know that, for instance, if it's genetically modified or not. And so how this is even legal in the minds of, we're dealing with sociopaths. We're dealing with people who are sociopaths. And this is setting us as a Black community. We definitely need to follow the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and we need to grow our own food. We need to start that process back up immediately. If you have a community, Black community, you need to come together. You need to pool your resources. You need to find whatever plot of land that you can find, and you need to grow food on that plot of land. I suggest that you get my book, The Inescapable Famine. And in this book, it talks about how communities can pull together and begin to grow their own food. The Inescapable Famine. You can go to refugedepot.com and purchase that book in as an ebook, or you can go to Amazon and purchase it as a softback book, and it's called The Inescapable Famine. Serious, man. Get on it because it's all going down. Okay, so let's get into let's go ahead and start finishing this part up, and we'll do another part to it. But how important is it in eating the proper food to the mind and mood, and how are they connected? Because remember, one of the things that I said earlier is about the food, these dyes that are going into candy that they know affect the uh, attention span, behavior of our children, The gut and brain that they know are now connected. They know that the brain, the gut bacteria is connected to the brain. As a matter of fact, they're calling the stomach the second brain. And the gut and brain are intimately linked through what is known as the gut brain axis. This connection is so strong that the gut is often referred to as the second brain. Up to 95% of serotonin, a key neurotransmitter associated with mood regulation, is produced in the gut. This highlights the critical role our digestive system plays in mental health. Look, is there a mental health crisis in America? It doesn't only deal with the condition that Americans are in, which is one where many people are living day to day, hand to foot for survival, where there are now in the greatest country on earth, as many people say, tent cities where families, not individuals, not mentally disturbed people, families where both parents are working many times more than one job to survive. So it talks about up to this highlights the critical role our digestive system plays in mental health. But the bacteria in our gut can break down certain foods into chemicals that affect brain function and mood regulation. Let me read that again. Let me read that again for me. The bacteria in our gut can break down certain foods into chemicals that affect brain function and mood regulation and alter gut microbiome has been linked to mood disorders and mental health issues. Certain foods, and this is why the FDA is called the Food and Drug Administration, because food is a drug. Certain food, and they know this, and that's why they're poisoning you because they don't want a healthy America. Because a healthy America is a fighting America. And as a matter of fact, when you talk about the military is in such bad shape because the majority of the American youth are not just out of shape, but they're sick. Certain foods can cause inflammation in the body. And that's a major issue if you study Dr. Sebi talks about inflammation. Inflammation is the cause of everything, which can disrupt brain chemicals like serotonin and dopamines that are crucial for mood regulation. A diet rich in anti inflammatory foods can help support mental well being. So, what are those foods? And we'll go ahead and start wrapping it up with naming some of these foods, and we'll go ahead and wrap it up with that. So, of course, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches that fruits and vegetables, some uh, fruits and vegetables that are good are berries like blueberries, strawberries, blackberries, cherries, citrus fruits like oranges, grapes, avocados, broccoli, beans, of course, like the navy bean. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said we should have a bowl of navy bean every time we sit down to eat our one meal a day or our one meal every other day. Turmeric, garlic, ginger, um, onions, black pepper, cinnamon, rosemary, paprika, green tea, coffee. Some say coffee good, some say coffee bad. It all depends. Extra virgin oil, extra virgin olive oil, and dark chocolate and cocoa. Research has um, shown a strong link between diet quality and mental health, but they don't emphasize that in they don't emphasize that in the mainstream media. People who eat plant-based diets high in uh, n- navy beans, fruits and vegetables, but low in processed foods and excess sugar tend to have better mental health outcomes. Not tend to have better mental health outcomes than those who eat processed foods. And I would love for you, if you're able to find this report. It's called, and Dr. Alim did this lecture like years ago over uh, an experiment called the Pottinger cat experiment, where he fed one group of cats raw foods and another group of cats processed foods. And I think after the fourth generation, you see many of the things that you see going on today. Because after the fourth generation, there were no more generations because the cats could no longer pro- they could no longer produce children. They could no longer give cats could never longer give birth to children. There was other things like the teeth would fall out of the cats were irritated, the fur on the cats was dull. And you see all of this going on. If you translate it into human beings, you see the same thing going on in human beings today. Studies have found that young people with the healthiest diets are considerably less likely to experience depression, than those with nutritionally poor diets. Improving one's diet has been shown to relieve depression symptoms, with one study reporting that a third of people with depression experience full relief of their symptoms after improving their diet. And what is that old saying? Let food be thy medicine, and stop spelling pharmacy with a ph, and and spell it with a f, farm, a c, and not big pharma. So, um, here's some practical steps that you can take, and this is the end. And we'll do another part another day. So, practical steps that you can take for your mental health is limit ultra processed and sugary foods, which can negatively impact mood and mental health. So, we know that the holiday season is here. And many times around the holiday seasons, there is an abundance of highly processed foods, and especially sugar, right? We started off with Valentine's Day and the Playboy bunny that they make out of chocolate. Oops, did I say that? Anyway, the fertility bunny. Oops, my fault. Anyway, um, then you go into Thanksgiving where you eat all of this food and the sugar. Then you have Christmas where you eat all of this food and sugar. Then you have the New Year where they're telling you to get a flu shot. You please, all you need to do is maintain a proper diet and your immune system will be just fine. Increase consumptions of fruits, vegetables, and navy beans, and other things like that. Include foods rich in omega-3 fatty acids, such as fatty fish, which, of course, once again, like I said, you got to be careful with that, which are linked to better mood and brain health. Incorporate fermented foods like yogurt, which contain probiotics. And you got to be careful with the yogurt, okay? Because once again, we're talking about adulterated foods. Do your research. Make sure that if you're going to get any type of probiotics, that it's good for your gut health, because it will improve your mood. Consume foods rich. Uh, Let me see here. Maintain stable food sugar levels by choosing complex carbohydrates over simple sugars. And so the best way to get your sugar, if you got a sugar fix, right, is to eat fruits, right? Because the sugar that is in the fruit is not only a different type of sugar, but it also comes with fiber. So when you eat the fruit, you will only eat so much because you'll be full, as opposed to the unnatural sugars, which you can just keep on popping. And next thing you know, you have diabetes. So think about that. The food we eat has a profound impact on our mental health state and overall well being. A very nutrient rich diet not only supports physical health, but also plays a crucial role in maintaining good mental health and a positive mood. By making informed dietary choices, we can potentially improve our mental well being and reduce the risk of mood disorders. And so, with that, brothers and sisters, want to thank you for tuning in. And I have a lot of other notes, and I'm gonna have to get to these another day. But I want to thank you for watching. And this has been a collaboration between Refuge Depot and Knowledge for Life. Please subscribe to the channels. Just type in Refuge Depot uh, and Knowledge for Life and subscribe to both channels. And with that, may God continue to bless you and your family with the light of truth and understanding. Assalamu alaikum. Oh, I just wanted to say real quick. I also have another book called Immunity Empowerment. Immunity Empowerment. It's a very powerful book. You can go right on to Amazon and find that Immunity Empowerment. Or once again, you can go to my Patreon site, uh, patreon.com/. Refuge Depot. You can also go to knowforlife.net and you can find that book, Immunity Empowerment. And so, with that, God bless.